Good evening, everyone. I'm Michelle here. Today, I'm going to do a short presentation, a short sharing with you on how to check through your work. Now, you may have come across teachers, tutors, or even your parents who tell you, hey, check your work. Has it ever occurred to you what checking your work actually means? And how do you check your work? I wonder if you feel like this gorilla over here is thinking, I'm not quite sure, but I think I'm confused. Well, today, let's take some time to unpack this whole thing. So what exactly is checking, you may ask? Well, checking your work is to make sure it shows your ability in doing the questions that you are given in the paper. It shows that you're able to understand what is being asked and to minimize the chance of committing careless mistakes. Very often when we do papers, when we have exams and tests, we get stressed. We might forget certain things along the way, or we might even copy down the wrong number to work out our sums. And we do not realize until the exam is over and we see, oh, I forgot to do this, or I left out that, and that doesn't quite reflect how much we know about a topic just because we were careless. Now, so you may ask, what's the hassle of checking? Why is the hassle of checking? And why is it such a big hoo-ha? Why does everyone who teaches me keep telling me to check? Well, the simple reason, and possibly one of the main reasons, is that we are humans, right? And we make mistakes. Like it or not, we are not computers, we are not machines. And even computers and machines make mistakes. They break down. As humans, we forget as well. We have slip-ups also. So it is very, very costly. It's painful to lose marks for what we already know in our tests, in our exams, even in our daily work. And it's not good use of time to do corrections for something we actually already know how to do. Right? Can't we use the time for something else, you might ask? I would think so too. Now, when we bother to check, this shows two things. One is we take pride in the work that we are given. And two, we take our work very seriously. And that ought to be the attitude of people who learn, not just you as a student, even for teachers, even for people at large. When we learn, we take our learning seriously. We track our steps. We track our methods. So checking makes sure that we spot careless mistakes that we should not have made. And it brings us one step closer to the actual kind of quality of work that we ought to have. Now, don't you think that it's great if the people who assess us, the markers, the teachers, actually know and understand how much we know? If let's say we know 80% of a topic, but because we made so many careless mistakes that in the end we only show that we know 50% of a topic, then I think we might have given quite a false impression of how much we know, right? Yeah, that's why checking is so important. Now, I would also like to bring to your attention what is not checking. Yeah? What checking is not would be to flip through the pages of a test, a homework, exam, from start to end, and think that that's it. I've done my checks. I'm good to hand in. Checking is also not looking through that all questions have been written on, all blanks have been filled, and that's it. My job on checking is done. I'm good to go. That's not checking. Checking is also not staring at your paper until it's time to hand it up in the case of an exam setting. No. So if you have had the experience of checking this way, perhaps it's time to rethink how to check properly or how to check more thoroughly. Let me offer some suggestions. So, what checking is? There are some steps. First thing is to make sure that whatever you are given, the piece of work you are given, all pages have been completed sensibly. We don't just scribble numbers or letters or words that make no sense and we take it as, okay, we're done. Right? That's not doing anything very helpful. We also make sure that we take personal responsibility that all questions, all pages, all work given to us are clearly printed. Sometimes when the print is not so clear, we might want to ask for a clearer a replacement of the worksheet, the handout, or to ask the teacher to read out whatever words that you might not have seen clearly so that you can go over it with your own handwriting and you can see the question clearly once more. Remember, take our work seriously. And no question is left undone or blank, even if we do not know how to do it. Yeah. Now, as we know, every question that we are being tested on, we are assessed on something. So how much we know about something has to be seen through our working, has to be seen through our explanation. If we try, we might have a chance of getting partial marks. However, if we do not try, we can be very sure we will not get any mark. Now, which choice would you make for yourself? To try and perhaps get something out of it, some marks out of it, or not try and definitely get a 0, or not try and definitely not put in any thought. Well, I hope you have chose the first choice. Okay, and questions that you do not know how to do, through checking and thinking through again and again, you know you have tried to your best ability. Now, one practical way to consider that you have checked through something is to make sure that your answer is reasonable. Does it make sense? Yeah? Or is it awkward sounding? Is it like weird? Is it nonsense, you might even ask? So let's take an example. If a question is regarding finding the age of a father and his son, we know parent will definitely be older than the child, right? So the answer to the son's age must definitely be smaller than that of the father. That's reasonable, isn't it? If we get the age of a son that is larger than the father, and that's absurd, that's not going to be possible. So it is not reasonable. Similarly, for a question like that, for example, blank is 90 more than 45. Sometimes we might get caught. Oh, is it addition or is it subtraction? Well, if you are not too sure and you decide to go with either, why not work it out and try fitting the answer into the blank? So let's consider inserting the answer when we take 90 plus 45. Okay? Now we get 135. So let's say if I were to add if I were to put the answer 135 into the blank and ask myself, all right, 135 is 90 more than 45. 90 more than 45 means that I'm looking at a number bigger than 90. Makes sense to put 135? Okay, it sounds like it makes sense. Perhaps the answer is 135. However, if I were to consider something else, let's say if I were to say, let me erase 135. Let's say if I were to consider the second method of doing. Okay, we take 90 minus 45 and I get 45. Now, if I were to put 45 into where the blank is, it means 45 is 90 more than 45. And then we start thinking, 90 more than 45. Looks like we need to look for a number larger than 90. How come my answer is so small? It's so much smaller than 90. It does not make total sense at all, right? In fact, it's quite impossible to have an answer 45. So as I try to reason my answer, I realize, okay, my answer cannot be 45. It does not make sense to put 45 down as my answer. So therefore, my answer ought to be 135. If I check, I would put 135 down. So this is one way to make sure that the answer is reasonable. Now, another practical way is to redo the sum a second time. At least means you could do it a third time, fourth time over. And of course, this is hard work. However, it pays off. Now, while working out a sum, work it out a second time on the spot. And this is to make sure that it is correct. On the spot, because your memory is fresh from doing the calculation once through, and before you move on to the next step of the calculation, as you do it again mentally, the numbers are still fresh in your mind. If you are a P5 or P6 student, and in paper 2, you can make use of the calculator. To recalculate on the spot means you could hit the replay button and see whether you have pressed the correct numbers instead of pressing all over again after you finish the entire paper, right? Now, check that you have copied down the right numbers into your working. Very often, when students know exactly how to do, they get so excited that numbers can be written in a different order. 123 becomes 312. Yeah? It might sound funny, but it's so commonly made, this mistake. And one mistake right from the top could lead all the way down to a wrong answer at the end. And guess what? No marks given. So it is very costly when we copy and we copy down the incorrect number. Now, in our test and exam, when time allows, redo the steps. Do not assume that all your answers are done correctly the first time round. And I say that from my own experience. When I do a maths test, when I do a science test, there are calculations involved. And whenever there are calculations involved, I never assume I will get it right the first time round. Remember, I'm human. I can make mistakes too. And even the most convincing answer might not be the answer. And I can't assume that I'm right until I check once, twice, 3 times if time allows. And I will make sure I check until the time is up. Okay. Now let's take a look at an example of how to work out a sum a second time round on the spot to make sure it's correct. So let's say if I am doing this question 375 plus 264 and I were to think aloud, okay, this is what I will say. Oh, all right, now I have to look at the ones place now and I take 5, add to 4. Looks like the number is 9. Okay, as I write down 9, let me think again. Is my 9 correct? Now let me just check. 5 plus 4. Okay, right, that's 9. Okay, so I'm doing a second round of check. This step here has been checked twice. Now I move on. 7 add to 6. Sounds like it's 15. Regroup with a 1 on top and a 5 at the bottom. And I ask myself again, 7 plus 6. Oh, second time round when I check, realize mistake. Not 15. 7 and 6 makes 13. Oh, thank God. When I checked, I realized something is wrong. And instead of 15, straight away, I make a change. 13. So I caught my own mistake the second time round. Now, hundreds place, so I have a 1, and a 3, and a 2, and if I add them up, 6. Check again, 1 plus 3, 4, 4 plus 2, 6. Okay, well done. So this sum has been checked twice on the spot. And I avoid making that mistake that I did just now, where I took 7 and 6 to make 15. Secondly, I need not need to wait until the entire piece of work is done before I come back to this again. That would be such a dread, isn't it? Yeah, I would rather check on the spot. Yeah, okay. So I would like to leave you a quote about today's short sharing, and it says that good mathematics is not about how many answers we know. Sometimes we know so many things, we are so eager to do, we are so eager to prove it. However, more importantly, it's how you behave when you don't know. Do we keep checking and finding clues? Do we keep making sure that the steps we know, the portions we know of a question, a difficult one, we do it right? Do we make sure that our answer even sounds reasonable, even when we are not confident of our answer? That's how we behave towards a question. Yeah? We don't give away the marks just like that. We don't give up just because it's challenging, right? Now, so in summary, first step is of checking is to check the reasonableness of the answer. Does it make sense? Am I writing something that is nonsensical? 2, do all calculations twice over on the spot to save time and to really make sure you are right before you move on. So I hope today's sharing is helpful to you and you have benefited from it. If you find that this has helped you, you may want to also share this link with your friends so that they may benefit from it as well. All right. Thank you for your time. Goodbye.